from the campus of the University of Nebraska at Omaha. Consider This, a program of issues and information behind today's news.
You and me, let me please introduce myself. While you're here, I can't take it.
Hi everyone, I'm Kathy Wyatt. Welcome to this week's edition of Consider This. Our topic, post-pandemic performing arts. Joining us to talk more about it is Joan Squires. Joan is the president of Omaha Performing Arts. Thank you so much for being here and welcome.
Thank you, Kathy. I'm so pleased to be here today.
Okay, let's start. When we talk performing arts, what are we really talking about?
Well, Omaha Performing Arts, our mission really is threefold. We're here to present the best of the touring artists and productions from across the country and internationally. We have our two wonderful world-class venues, the Orpheum Theater and the Holland Performing Arts Center, and a very extensive education and engagement programs, not just for Omaha, but across the state of Nebraska.
Okay, now before we go forward, let's go back, Joan. Let's talk about those months prior to the pandemic. What was going on at OPA at that time?
We were full tilt, and it was one of the strongest seasons ever. We had sold out shows for our Broadway productions, lots of education activities, and particularly about the time COVID hit, March is really when our season has both venues running almost every day and activities everywhere. So we were going 100 miles an hour, and as I said to somebody, it was almost like the airbags went off when COVID hit.
Yeah, you were on a roll, and then March 2020 came along. Talk about the introduction to this pandemic from your perspective.
Sure. Well, we knew things were starting to evolve across the country, and we were watching more and more places start to be closed down, weren't sure what it meant for the industry. And the weekend where things really, I think, came to a head for us, the tour of Dear Evan Hansen was preparing to load out in Salt Lake City. We were on the phone. Are they going to come to Omaha? Are they not? Do we cancel? What do we do? We had artists that were starting to say, I'm not leaving because I don't think I can get home. So they were starting to cancel their own shows and not want to get stuck, you know, halfway across the country from their home if they couldn't travel back. So things were really unraveling, and frankly, it happened pretty quickly that midweek of March.
What was the most difficult decision, Joan, that you had to make as president during that time?
During the closure part, I would say there were two places, Kathy. One was the fact that we had to just stop and to close both buildings, to cancel the productions, because first and foremost, it was the safety of our artists, our patrons, our staff, and everybody that really had to take precedence. We didn't want our audiences to come together. And so sitting in the Holland, that last performance, I heard Yellow Jackets, the jazz group, and it just, to know, at the time, I don't think I realized how important it was that it was going to be so much longer before I could hear live music again. So that was difficult. The second, I think, was even more difficult, though, was during the course of the pandemic, because our income streams all came to a halt. You know, we have much of our revenue, 75% is earned from tickets and events, and it stopped. And after our first PPP loan ran out, we had to make a terrible decision to have to lay off 45% of our staff because we just didn't have the work. So if I look at decision making and difficulties, that was probably one of the most difficult days in my entire working career was to have to make that difficult one. But we knew the work wasn't going to be there, and we had no idea when it was going to come back.
Well, and at the same time, I mean, you're wanting to let people know, look, we may not be here in the same way that we've been here, but we are here, right? And so you had this slogan, "The curtains aren't closed." We're going to put that up for our viewers. Tell us the story behind this.
Sure. Well, we knew, though, even with the buildings closed, that it was important to connect people to the arts. And while they might not be able to gather together, that there were opportunities to connect them and to stay vibrant and for people to remember us. And we wanted to provide work for our artists. So we felt it was important in numerous ways to engage with our public and to provide access. So we launched a number of initiatives. We had virtual programs. We call it Live on the Stream. So we presented artists, not just from Omaha, Nebraska, but literally from internationally, that we would stream for anyone who could log on. Those events were free. We also provided extensive education opportunities. We did the Nebraska High School Theater Awards. It's our program that we take across all of Nebraska. We had a virtual showcase, and we had this amazing Zoom performance of these young people singing at the end of it. It was really moving. So we did a lot of education activities and really tried to stay connected to our audiences everywhere. And it was tremendous, and we offered a lot of education. I think you may have some visuals on that we have some of that as well.
Yeah, and it's a huge tribute to a leader like you, Joan. I mean, this is an industry where you have to be creative anyway. And then you have something like the pandemic come down the pike where you're feeling stressed and pressured and, like you said, having to lay people off. And yet you still have to be creative. You still have to think outside the box, you know, given all of that. So let's take a look at these and tell us what's going on, just ways that you stayed connected.
Sure. This is part of our Theater Essentials Online. So because of schools being closed down, how could they get some content and start to learn behind the scenes? So we have these very self-contained modules, if you will, called Theater Essentials Online. We recorded them with experts on lighting and makeup and acting, so that students or teachers could use these as part of their curriculum, and that we made it accessible. You know, we really found we had to be nimble and flexible and just creative and to keep making it up as we went. And our staff, who weren't necessarily experts in digital and streaming, really became very proficient at it. And we really have our own little studio, and we made mistakes, we learned as we went, and we would fix it and then build on that knowledge and continued to really, I think, put some things out. I'm very proud of what the team did. They really did a tremendous job.
It's crazy to think about that because there are so many people with whom you visit nowadays who didn't ever think they would be going to something like Zoom and then liking it. So the staff really had to think outside the box. Take us outside of the Holland now. Talk about that.
Sure. Well, and then as part of it, we started to open up. So when things were starting to loosen up with the restrictions here in Omaha, we knew we could start to do some things socially distanced in our halls, very spread out. But we started with Holland Center Outdoors. So we did an outdoor performance. Everybody sat in their own little pods, if you will, on our green grass next to the Holland Center. And we had live performances, and I don't know who was happier, were the audience or the artists, because it was the first time they had a chance to perform for a live audience. People went crazy. Just to hear the music and to be with other people, even if you had masks on and socially distanced, you're like, this is what it's about. You know, the virtual and the Zoom is fine, but what really the performing arts are about is connecting to audiences live. That experience you can't get any other way. And I just was like, oh, this is why we do this. And how important this is as humans to have that experience, and especially when we're all stuck in our, you know, houses or apartments all that time, it's time to really get out and enjoy the arts.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit more, because as the audience is watching the show, you're watching the audience, and I can't even imagine the joy that the staff, who had been, to your point, kind of sitting and waiting in the wings a bit, how good that finally felt to be able to see that.
Well, and it was the first time they'd been together, because they've been working home from virtually. So the staff was there in force. Our ushers came out. They wanted to be of assistance, and people felt safe. We had a lot of protocols in place to make sure that we took care of everybody. And I should knock, if there was wood around here, I would knock on it. So far, we haven't had any known COVID cases, even with reopening. Now as we're starting to slowly reopen the buildings and have performances inside.
Let's talk about the types of audiences, Joan. I mean, pre the pandemic, you had your regulars,
Yep.
like everybody else, and then you have this whole different situation come up. So you have people who are now able to go online, people who are able to go outside that may not have gone indoors previously. Talk about that diversification of audience.
Well, we really have always been here for the entire community. It has been part of the mission of our organization since we started. It was certainly Dick and Mary Holland's vision at the Holland Center and our board to welcome everybody. But we knew that it was going to continue to be important to reach all parts, and everybody came together. They just were happy to hear music. It was really wonderful and very, very gratifying to see everybody come out for the performances.
Okay, now as the pandemic was going on, the racial justice movement was also gaining momentum. How did OPA answer the calls of equity and injustice or inclusiveness during all of this?
No, well, for more than 5 years, we've done a lot of work on culture and social justice and equity and inclusion at Omaha Performing Arts. We've done a lot of training with our staff, our programs, our partnerships in the community, but we also felt it was important to really bring it under an umbrella to highlight some of those efforts in a more sort of an organized fashion of a series. So we launched what we are calling Voices Amplified, which is our series on arts and social justice, and to really bring forth some of the topics to discuss, whether it was food, some of film, we had photography and others. So we used both local artists and some of our national performers to have some of those difficult conversations. You know, we featured No More Empty Pots, we partnered with Film Streams, we had the photography of Rudy Smith, and then we also used some of the people who were coming in to perform then, Ranky Tanky, Alicia Alatuja, who talked about the voices of women. We really tried to have those conversations in a thoughtful and important way so that we can continue to expand that dialogue and we'll continue to grow that program. It's not just a one-time thing. This is something that is core to Omaha Performing Arts, and it's one of our core values is inclusion. And we want to continue to grow those programs. So we will be furthering those efforts as we go forward.
You're talking about partnerships here, and one of the questions that I've been asking folks is that whole idea of collaboration during the pandemic. And for the most part, I'm hearing that it's been strengthened. It's just been unbelievable to a point where some people are saying, I sure hope it doesn't go away, you know, when this is all done. So talk about that from OPA's perspective, you know, the partnerships, the great ones that you had pre, what happened during, right, and what are you hoping for post?
Well, certainly we have worked with all of our colleagues as we come into our buildings. So our resident companies to provide the support for them. The Omaha Symphonies at the Holland, Opera Omaha at the Orpheum, the dance companies and others. So to continue to make sure that our buildings are safe for them, that we share the information with our colleagues. And we're also staying very connected nationally. So our organization with the performing arts centers across the country, the Broadway industry, I have had more Zoom calls than I probably can count at this point. As we continue to evolve our reopenings, we're all connected. And what happens for a Broadway show, for instance, to come to Omaha, it has to have a tour route across the country, and all those states have to be open. So we have to coordinate those efforts so that those tours financially can make it work. So it's not just that Omaha has to be open, everybody else has to start to be open too.
Okay, and I was going to ask you about that whole community connectivity, for lack of a better term. So important, and you've talked about ways that that's happened. Is there anything that you haven't mentioned in terms of just the importance of making people aware that A, you're still here, and B, that you want your arts to be a part of their lives?
Well, we continue to promote that. Our website, we're continuing to upgrade to show what is there. We're having those conversations, and in fact, one of my team members today was just telling me about a new partnership that we're developing of a series in North Omaha right now. There's lots of that work is going on in the community and in our buildings, and it has been there. But now that we can start to open up, we can start to plan those efforts. So we're having great conversations and great planning, and it builds on the work that we've already done.
Okay, I want to talk about the 21-22 season, of course. But before we do that, safety is such an important element. There are just folks out there who are wanting so much to have the policies, protocol, procedures, all of that in place, but to know that there's somebody enforcing all of that, Joan. So we have a graphic that we're going to put up for our viewers, and as we do that, paint a picture of what people can expect when they come back.
Sure. Well, we made a lot of changes in our facilities. Early on, we did the research to understand what it would take to keep our audiences, our artists, our staff, our volunteers safe. So the cleaning has been important, particularly the virus filtering. We've got a new system in our HVAC. It's, if I can get the name right, bipolar ionization. So it has to do with taking viruses out of the air. I think it's past my pay grade, but we have installed all of that, which is one of the state-of-the-art devices to keep the air filtration with additional outside air. Everybody is wearing masks in the building and is asked to do that as well. And touchless experience. So everything from cashless transactions, new scanners that you just walk through and you don't have to take things out of your bag. Nobody has to touch your bag. And particularly mobile ticketing, that we have pushed all of our ticketing, which was starting to be more mobile. And we were like, no, you have to have the tickets on your phone, and we will scan them, again, to keep the experience touchless, to try to keep any kind of spread to a minimum. And we had social distancing as well. So we roped off seats in both halls. We sat everybody apart. Now we're starting to add capacity, but there is still some social distancing going on right now.
Okay. Joan, you've been doing this for a while. And I have to ask, in these past many months, what has been the greatest lesson for you? I mean, very few of us saw this coming and even had any idea what kind of an impact it would make. But what would you say is the greatest lesson learned from where you're sitting?
I would say, first of all, the importance of the arts has, I think, risen, that people do want to be connected through the arts. And that has been evident in the artists' desire to continue to perform. Our audiences want to come back. We're having wonderful renewals on our Broadway tickets. People are buying tickets. They want to gather together. And within all that context, though, it's having to be nimble and quick and to continue to reinvent. So, you can't get stuck in the way we've always done things. You have to continue to look forward and figure out how we can connect. But I think underlying all of it is, it's been underscored, at least to me, is people want to come together around the arts, and they need it now more than ever. It's, it's something we've been missing this over a year now, and people are ready to come back. They're like, I love my family, but get me out of here. I want to come to some performances.
Which is a great segue into our next question here. So you do have an unbelievable 21-22 season. I mean, especially considering where we've been in all of this. And what we're going to do is we're going to roll some video for our viewers. Great. We're going to start it up, sound up full to get them all excited, and then we're going to bring it under Joan, and we just want you to talk to us about what we're seeing on the screen.
Thank you.
All right.
Well, that was perennial favorite Cats, which is going to return in a new production. And here is the one and only Hamilton. We are thrilled to be able to bring it back to Omaha. It will be here for 3 weeks. And so if you didn't get a chance to get it was the hot ticket the last time. I think it's still going to be. And we're going to have 3 weeks of Hamilton. So even if you streamed it this past year, it was available. Now you get a chance to see this production live. And there's nothing like it on that stage. Our next show, Dear Evan Hansen, that's the production. We just closed down and just missed. It's a Tony Award winner from Broadway. We've had huge interest. It's just an incredible moving production about a young man who really gets caught up in social media. And beautiful music, and in fact, I think you have to hand out tissues at the end of the first half. So it's just a production a lot of people are looking forward to. This is a revival of audience favorite Fiddler on the Roof. It was on Broadway a number of years ago. I saw it. I think they've done a terrific job with new choreography. that was informed by the original, and it's just a chance to bring that favorite back. This is Mean Girls, the Tina Fey written musical based on the book. So it's a great story. People think it's just for young people, and it's not. The music is super. The cast is very talented. In fact, one of the high school theater awards, the Ginny Awards, was the lead on Broadway, and she had the lead role. She will not be on the road, but it's a great musical. Here's a few more scenes from it. And that's here in March. And this is Hadestown. This won the Tony Award right before Broadway closed down. It's two Greek fables that are woven together. The story of Hades and Eurydice and Orpheus and Persephone. You sort of takes the stories, intertwines them. It's a tragedy, actually, but it's set in a New Orleans style. The music is super, and it's beautifully done. So it may not be well known to the audiences, but I know they're going to enjoy the show. And then for the 5th time returning to Omaha, flying into Omaha, will be Wicked. This is a production, personally, I can see as many times as we can bring it. And I know there's a lot of Wicked fans out there. So I'm just delighted to add that as an add-on. You can put that as part of your season. And then finally, Anastasia. This was based on the animated production, and it was brought to life on the stage. Actually, this was supposed to be in the 1920 season, so we have held it over now for a couple of years and really wanted to get it back for our Omaha audiences. So that's another addition. Got packages, add-on tickets, and it's all available now. So we're thrilled. People are renewing their tickets. We're about 94% renewed. People are like, I want to come to your Broadway season. We've got more in store. We're already working on 22, 23. So lots of great shows coming.
Well, I would imagine that there are people out there right now thinking, I want to see that, which is completely understandable. But looking at the big picture with OPA, there are also some people out there saying, I want to do that. What would you say right now to our kids, the aspiring actors and actresses out there who are wanting to give something like that a try?
Sure.
What would you tell them?
Well, I would say a couple of things. They should check our education links on their website. We've got lots of options. The Broadway League itself has a lot of opportunities if they go on to the national site of careers that are options. And for high schools that are doing their own musicals, our Nebraska High School Theater Academy connects them to Broadway. They get a chance to, the students that are in those programs, master classes and workshops and tickets to shows. So they start to get that access and that connection, and they really should keep up. It is a tremendous program. We're reaching over 8,000 students in 85 schools across the entire state, all the way from Omaha to Scottsbluff. So we're everywhere in Nebraska, and any young person who loves Broadway can get connected.
I got to ask, do you have a favorite Broadway show?
It's always whatever I've just seen. So I have the terrible duty of having to go to New York regularly to see shows, but somebody's got to do it. So
somebody does have to do it, Joan. But do you have a favorite?
I actually don't, because
Really?
I've seen so many wonderful productions, and it changes all the time.
All right,
So.
I'll let you off the hook.
I
on
know.
that
I
one.
never have a good answer because it shifts all the time.
I do want to ask, so we've gone through this past year, we've learned a lot of lessons, and there have been some really outside the box thinking occurring as a result. Progressive change, right? How do you see what has played out this past year changing the future of the performing arts?
Well, I think it certainly has always been part of our mission, but the need to continue to connect to community has never been more important, and to make sure that we are reaching all parts of our community, that we are a welcoming and inclusive environment, and just to continue to provide those opportunities. So it's not enough just to be on our stages, but to have a chance to meet the artists, to have conversations around the performances, to learn more in depth, I think is going to be really important as we go forward, because it really is about the community and how do we all come together around the performing arts.
Now, you mentioned with the pandemic it being so difficult from a funding standpoint. Are you finding that's picking up again? And speak really to all the nonprofits who are out there watching thinking, yeah, Joan, tell us, is it starting to pick up again? Because it's been a really tough year.
It's been a very difficult year. I mean, we lost 75% of our earned revenue. We're fortunate our donors have stayed with us and which have understood, because for all the nonprofits, and that support has been critical. We did get some money from the CARES Act, and in our case, the shuttered venue operator grant from the Small Business Administration will be launched here soon, which will be of assistance as we get open. So all that type of assistance has been, we hear about the restaurant industry and others, but certainly the arts and culture sector has really been devastated. Our organization alone is a $48 million annual economic impact, and we're reaching 500,000 people a year. So all those hundreds of jobs that have been lost, from the people working on stage to not just our staff, but all the businesses, the parking, the restaurants, and the people that we help support. So everybody's coming together now to do that, but we've been relying on both public dollars and the goodwill of the community to keep going through this.
Okay, less than a minute remaining. Final thoughts, Joan. Anything I haven't asked that you want to say?
Well, we're opening up, and I think if you want to start to feel like we're coming back out of this pandemic, we've got shows now that are socially distanced. We've got, you saw at the beginning of the broadcast, our Present series from Boss Skaggs, Straight No Chaser, Leslie Odom Jr., and others on that series, which is terrific, and Broadway. So there's a lot coming. We have Holland Center Outdoors I really want to mention. So come outside, feel safe during the summer, and come back into our buildings.
Joan Squires, president of Omaha Performing Arts, talking us today about the post-pandemic performing arts. I want to thank you, the students who are working so hard behind the scenes. I want to put up a graphic for those people who want more information about this program. Omaha Performing Arts, opa.org, ticketomaha.com, and there's the phone number. As we close, a look at scenes from Fontanelle Forest as seen through the lens of Hannah Hesser, a senior at UNO. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you next week.
Consider This is an issues and information program produced by UNO Television. More information and program archives can be found at netnebraska.org/considerthis. If you'd like to share your comments about this program, call UNO Television at 402-554-2516 during regular business hours, or send an email to cwyatt@unomaha.edu.
more than 20 years, only one program has addressed topics that matter to viewers. Only one program delivers the information that Nebraskans need to live the good life. I'm Kathy Wyatt. Join my guests and me as we discuss those issues every week on a program we call Consider This.